Gruff, how proud are you to have 12 players in the world setup?
Yeah, incredibly so. Obviously we've got the tried and tested internationals, but you also see some of the young guys go through, which is testimony to our community clubs, our age grade structure, and obviously the development pathway we're really proud about within the region, and the resourcing of that has been huge for us the last few years, and it's had to be given the sort of the regional scene, but in particular to see people like Sam and Rory now get an opportunity. Yeah, you are incredibly proud. It creates its own challenges elsewhere, but you know, in terms of knowing these people and the players they become, it's a great thing.
The two uncapped players, how do you assess those guys? Are they ready for this level of rugby?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I always say about being picked internationally is about being consistent over the period of time. You know, and Sam has always delivered for us. A lot of learning taking place for him over the last 18 months, 24 months, and had a lot of game time within that learning. So you've had experience and exposure within non-international periods and international periods around him getting a lot of game time and stepping up to the mark and showing not just the rugby attributes but some leadership skills you need from a 10, and that's where he's grown. And Rory likewise around his playing attributes as a pretty late developer in terms of the clubs and the under 18s, but seeing someone who's grown as well, not literally but grown around the line out and understanding the overall package about being a rugby player and the consistency you need as a rugby player week in, week out.
With Sam, how much has he learned in the space of say 13 months? Because you had a bit of a bumpy start to last season, didn't you?
Yeah, and in some ways it tested all of us, but those in the middle of it, the players in particular, you know, and at a real difficult time for us. You've got to obviously look around, you know, what you're doing in terms of the coach, the messages that are out there, and what information the players have got and what's driving the team on, whilst being mindful of the individual development. And we're trying to make sure that in amongst the young players, we're striving for wins. That's what we're all about. But within that is around, you know, how you help develop the players to produce consistently, and it's around obviously the technical parts of the game, which Sam's pretty proficient on. But for us, it's been around connecting the dots as well, around managing your way around the game and manage yourself around the training week, your communication with others, and how you impose yourself on different types of games. And then we saw the spin-off of Sam last year was coming off the bench, winning games against Blues, Clermont, and some of that was a spin-off of learning early season.
Do you think he's benefited from the competition with Dan?
100%. You know, I think we've got an environment here, you know, and we've seen it in previous years where perhaps, you know, previous years we've had strength in depth, and you've got people who challenge week in, week out. They push training, they push the competitive edge around your skill drills, the games in the week, people being across all manner of the game, because you know you've got to push yourself and others around you to be bigger and better, and that's something we pride ourselves on in the Ospreys, and we've seen that around obviously Sam and Dan over the last 2 years in particular.
And do you feel that Sam is ready to start testing during this series at any point?
Obviously I judge on what we do week in with the Ospreys, and perhaps we've got a different pair of eyes the way we, you know, play our game, but Rob and the coaches there, we'll see how Sam adjusts, you know, to what they do around the training and different language, different plays, and they'll make a call accordingly. But he's got the attributes to be a successful player.
And what about the guys, Griff, from the Ospreys who were a shade unlucky to miss out? Guys like Dan Evans, Paul James, Keelan Giles, Sam Parry perhaps?
Yeah, I guess so, and I think there's obviously, you know, be different shades of emotion around this time of year, around different ages and experiences, but from my experience, most of them are durable, resilient, and they'll get on to the next day. And our focus in particular is around this week for us, and those players in particular having a big shift to do this week, and that'll be their focus.
How are you equipped, do you feel, to manage during the autumn, minus 12 players?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think we've seen international periods before have challenged us incredibly so. When you look at you know, where we're consistently top end win-loss ratio around having all our players available, it does dip around this period. So you'd like to think some of the strength and depth that we've built up, the experiences of last year have helped, but also obviously some of those players have now gone to the international field themselves. And let's not forget the first weekend, You know, is a big round of league action for all of us. It's not a development competition. All the teams are playing, certainly for us, regional rivalries, and that could be a big challenge for us. The Dragons game in particular could really test us. You know, but you've got to try and thrive on that challenge. We'll keep communicating with the union to see where their training plans go and the selections go for the Australia game, and be supportive of everyone and everything we can there, whilst obviously keeping the open communication that players can come back and forth and be pretty fluid with it. But it's credit, I think, to the league that we and other sides keep producing, you know, players to come through the league action that we play in. But it does probably raise the question on the global season again, in terms of you know, top end competition being affected for, you know, 3 fixtures in this window, another whole host of fixtures around the new year, and you're playing it over the third of the season without possibly your names.
Will you move Josh or Dan Evans to 10, or possibly promote Luke Price?
Yeah, we've got some options there, and it's contingencies we've trained and we've talked through before. So yeah, we'll be exploring one of those avenues, and I'm not going to say which. You know, I'm enjoying. Luke had a good summer with us. You know, he's enjoying some of the BIC action at the moment. There was a good competitive game against the strong London Irish side on the weekend, which, like us, had a healthy mix of young and old. He'll get the benefit of that, and a lot of those selections will be about how we come through this weekend, perhaps, but also obviously we're mindful of the Dragons challenge, and you know, where we've got to get the balance of the field. If someone like Luke, who understands the positional job around the 10, but others are on the midfield, so you know, we'll cross that bridge, I suppose, when we get to it.
Yeah, my last one on this really. Do you feel, Griff, you're in a better position to cope with the autumn series, the international window, than you were this time last year?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, when you look around, I think, again, players who are within this sphere now, in terms of you know, people like your Cracknell's perhaps an example of someone who's had a lot of experience last year. He's in and amongst the mix now this year. He's benefited from some different learnings this season already, but that's off the back of a good season last year, a breakthrough at the back end of the year. Certainly backline players, there's still a whole host of core players that we work with regardless. It's certainly not going to be easy, and I think losing the 2 Canadians is obviously a little bit of a blow around hoping to have some of those on the field. But no, I mean, we trust the work we do as coaches. It does challenge you, but you've got to almost be one step ahead. I know we're playing Lyon this week, but there's also, you know, things you do around the training field that, you know, actually certain players get certain reps ready for the Dragons also.
With Keelan, he's not in the Wales squad, but some extraordinary sort of numbers he produced last week. 30 ball carries, 2 tries, 4 defenders, 5 defenders beaten. Quite a performance, really.
Yeah, it's pleasing. I mean, what is interesting, we did a review, I did a review with Keelan yesterday, and we probably identified another 4 or 5 key moments where possibly could have been alive to other opportunities. So that's, you know, still shows there's a little bit to add to his game. And I think Steve, rightly said the other day that he played a game with Swansea. We want to put him back around the Premiership just to get his take on going back and forth, and there's a couple of learnings we wanted them to put into the Premiership rugby, and that's given us a stimulus to keep him alive to what's going to help him succeed at the next level. And it is obviously the intangibles are in there anyway, some of what he can do in terms of his footwork and some of his dynamism, his stuff that we're blessed to have him on that field, you know. But it's also around adding detail to his running lines, his timing of set plays. Defensively as well, there's some stuff he's picking up with Brad on a weekly basis, you know. So I think it's constant for Keelan, because it's a bit different to some of the age group coaching he's had. Some of our job description around the winger does change. So that, again, as I said, is a challenge he's had to take on, and we've tried to apply that off Treviso off the bench last weekend and in amongst the Premiership games, a good bit of development for them.
This week, how do you assess Lyon?
Yeah, it'd be a tough ask away from home. I think they're probably one of the oldest, more experienced sides that we're going to face. You look at the players they've recruited, there's obviously some marquee boys in the back line, people like Mike Harris, Armitage, Michalak is around, Rudy Wolf, so there's players there who know their way around the rugby pitch, but also have got frightening athleticism as well, and that's based behind a huge pack. Again, you go to France and they've recruited around people like Paulo and Bonnet, the former Clermont players, experienced French players, the Tube. There's an endless list there really around the second rows. Privat, there's boys there 37, 35 years old, and they play a game that obviously suits them. And on their home patch, they've been pretty successful around the last couple of seasons and adapting well to life around the top 14 really well. So it presents another different physical challenge to us. It's probably different to some of the games we've played this year, but again, we've got to try and marry up where we've made some defensive improvement to how we want to perhaps attack them in a smart but efficient manner as well.
Going out there, is this potentially the most difficult game of the group perhaps for you?
It is when you look at the job they did on Grenoble last week. It was a game that was nip and tuck, but they were relentless. Their power game told, and in the end they ran away with some tries at the end, away from holding Grenoble. We might give them a bit of momentum around this group. Obviously we know that our away record in Europe is something we want to address, and what better time for the young group to try and step up to the plate this week.
So is there a formula for getting the job done? Last year you went out to France, picked up some points by imposing your own game. Is that what you'd be looking to do this week?
A little bit of that. There's no doubt we can't get involved in a heavy arm wrestle in terms of a driving set piece game against Lyon. I think there was probably occasions in those games we were too reckless minded in some of our usage. So you'd hope, as I said, there's some smartness around how we exit from our half, don't give them any opportunities to then bring Andy Brace, the referee, into the game. If we can control some of what we do around still smart field position based around some of what we've done successfully around our kicking game this year, but also coming alive to opportunities that we've flagged up around their defensive line. How they defend is obviously different to some of the teams in our league, but it gives us a different stimulus to attack.
I guess you're monitoring Fonetier's progress. What's the latest from him?
Yeah, unfortunately or fortunately, they've obviously qualified, and that keeps adding another week and another week into the mix potentially after that. I'm in consultation with him. I've been sending him play sheets. We're talking back and forth around some of our language and what we do from an offensive side of the game. So he's hopefully going to come and hit the ground running. But yeah, I'm sat here getting probably a tad frustrated with a couple of bumps and bruises starting to grow a bit now. But it's what it is, and we always manage those backline resources as we have done for some time really.
With someone like Dan Evans, what's the message to him in terms of staying motivated? He's played exceptionally well this season, yet he's been passed over by Wales. How do you as a coach sort of keep him motivated?
We're pretty sharp with Dan in terms of, I certainly acknowledge the good in his game. Everyone sees the meterage, which often is what you get from a 15 anyway, but he is pretty special at finding the little creak in the defensive line around the kick chase and putting us in good positions. His kicking game has been obviously one of the selling points where we brought him here, that we felt having that extra kicking length on the field at the time was what we needed. But I have loved seeing his attacking game develop, but I will say there's probably small technical parts of the game that we prompt week in, week out from him, because sometimes there can be things that he slips back on, and that might be the 5% that makes the difference between him then becoming an international in the future.
Just a couple to finish. You've obviously got a big derby against the Dragons next week. Have you been given any assurances from the union that you may have some players back for that, or is it too early to say?
Now Steve's had tentative chats with Rob around how their training week is going to look, and obviously they're really focused around the Australia game, but hopefully they'll work their way and obviously know perhaps where the selection's at early week, and you'd hope in the spirit of communication and where we're at really, that knowing that it's a tough fixture against the Dragons side that obviously has got a bit of strength going away from home to the Scarlets. I felt for large periods they were the better side. Great result last week, and I think they've really added something to their game, so we know it's a huge challenge. You certainly don't look for favours. We're proud of the numbers that we've got going up to the Vale and being a part of that group. But yeah, we'll see how those couple of training weeks pan out for us, Lyon first and foremost, and see how that goes.
And just one on Justin Tipuric, phenomenal try last week, but also not just the try, his stats are on the pitch, and once again very consistent. is this the best chance he'll have now to nail on a starting spot in that Wales squad with Farners are injured for at least half the series?
Oh, possibly. As I said earlier in reply to Mark's question, I think a lot of it does come down to these guys, you know, getting up to the Vale, quickly get into Wales world, understand a couple of differences there. Again, the language, how they train, and hopefully, in terms of, as I said, want these boys to represent the country, that then they can just get some momentum into that Australia game. Sure, he could do it, but as I said, it's them adapting to the Welsh way of things and what Rob wants as well.